Okay, this is our meeting for Group 10. So far, our hosts are Ben Wiggins and Ryan Parker. And what were you saying, Ryan?
I was saying in the case study, it says, what is the initial problem that I see in the case study? And the problem that I see is Simon York, being new to the management position that he has, he is just kind of arrogant. He's negative. People who he works with are scared of him. They're probably not very they're probably not very creative or willing to be creative because they're probably scared what he's going to say or do.
Right.
Yeah, and then when he was corrected or when he was in the meeting, he kind of put down the one guy and kind of put him on the spot. And there's just more positive ways to deal with those kind of situations. So that was the big thing that I saw. And then, we talked about how he went in the starting of it. Mary Griffin went, to the director and was talking about how Simon just went to the floor and just, started yelling at the people on the production floor like he owned it there.
Yeah. The interesting thing is that last paragraph really tells a lot about the case because Simon doesn't feel like he's doing anything wrong. In fact, he thinks he's doing great. But he has an issue, and that needs to be addressed because it's an issue he's not aware of.
Yes, and that's in the end of it. It talks about how he had to, is it right for Mary to correct him the way that she did? And I put yes, absolutely, because when people go through situations like that, or when they have that kind of an attitude and they're not corrected immediately, it shows themselves and other people in the workplace that that's acceptable behavior.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't think that she didn't actually correct him by the end of the case study. Yeah. And I think she waited too long, to be honest, because she didn't, the first time it happened, she let it slide, which can then validate Simon's behavior to himself. That was okay, right?
Yeah.
He was at the meeting. She heard all of this conversation. Nothing happened. Now, obviously, he wasn't looking at her going, am I going okay? But because of that, when she brings it up much later, he's going to be like, well, why is it an issue now?
Yeah.
When the assistant called, as it says here, she was evasive about the purpose. Why didn't Mary schedule the meeting herself? Why did she wait till, the second time and then schedule it for the next day? I think there was a lot of missteps on Mary's part about giving the correction that Simon needed early enough.
Yeah, I think it needed to be prompt. It needed to probably pull him aside right then. Mm-hmm. I think she went and talked to the director, which I think was the correct action. I think that's good to go, to the guy who's in charge of everything and let him, take care of it his own way. But I do think that she should have probably went there right after the meeting.
Right.
I think the thing that set her off was when he went out on the production floor, which, and then she saw that and he just going and yelling at people out on the production floor.
Yeah. The issue that Mary seems to be facing is it's not necessarily what he's saying, it's how he's saying it. If there was an actual issue with production, he should have had it addressed. But going out and yelling is not the way to do it. And if she's actually his boss, as well as over the production, then, or if he is not over production, he needs to go up the proper channels, right? Or at least have that discussion with an interpersonal employee in a proper manner.
Yes.
So the case study itself, I'm grabbing what I had mentioned here. What she needs to do when she meets with him is give him the proper feedback of letting him know, first of all, what he did wrong and why it's wrong. But then take the approach of what they should do to correct it for future engagements. Because if he doesn't know the proper avenues to take, then he's just going to revert back to that behavior.
Yeah. I talked a little bit about it, about how, maybe they need to put him through some management or leadership classes. And I talked about that in my case study with, in school they talk about the little L leadership, like leading with love. And I think, when I talked about that, there's a positive way to manage people, and it's kind of like a correct praise, to where he's all negative and people are scared and don't like to work with him. I talked about how, he could have said, hey, pulled the person aside, no, not in front of everybody, and then just said, hey, I think you do a great job, you're creative, you should probably proofread you should probably go through your slides and make sure everything's good before you do the presentation, but you're doing a great job. You know what I mean? Like kind of correct praise. And then I talked about how that works, with our kids. It works with, it's just a lot better attitude. I think people are more willing to correct when they feel good, or when they're, they tend to do a better job when they're happy and they're not scared at the workplace. I think when people are negative, they become really defensive, and I think the communication at that point is just shut down. I think, when people are trying to rule with a club instead of with love, I guess in a sense, people tend to just kind of shut themselves off. Yeah, the person who is in the leadership position is telling the other person, what they've done wrong, but I think the other person just kind of blocks it out. And they're just like, I'm being attacked here, I'm not going to listen. I think that goes, I see that in kids, coaching sports, when I've coached, baseball, football, basketball, a lot of sports with my, kids. And I found that if I try to correct my kid by yelling at my kid, it doesn't work. But if I praise what they're doing and then kind of correct them and then praise them again, I can see the change in them with their attitude.
Yeah, as long as that correction is present and is not diminished by that last praise, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to send conflicting messages of, you do great work, you're not dealing with people very well, but I know you're doing good. And so people will be like, wait, what? Because it was too vague, right? But when you give, like you said, specifics of look, I know you're better than this. This is where you're failing. What can we do to help you get better? What can I do? What can you do? Let's get a plan together to make sure that you are right on track with the way we're supposed to be here at Derby Foods. And then from there, to end the meeting, to say that positive note is, you have a lot of potential in this company, and there's a lot of avenues for you to take to reach that. But the current one you're going down is the wrong one, and it will not lead you to where you want to go, and it will not lead the company to where you want the company to go. So let's find another avenue that works best for you. And I think that would be something that is necessary. But
I think Simon York, I think he's outgoing. He's brought stuff to the company that they needed, with their sales and marketing. It's kind of put a younger twist on it. And he's kind of a hot shot, I guess you can call it. He goes in there and and he's probably got where he is by being outgoing. But I think that being the kind of person he is, he's kind of throwing other people under the fire, in a sense, and in a kind of a negative way. But I think, in the company-wise, Derby Foods, I think that, they did the right thing by going to the director. I think the director probably needs to have a talk with him about, the way that he manages or the way that he's running his team.
You're talking about Mary? Because Mary is the one that,
Yeah.
That's the interesting thing about this case study is I think that people can get bogged down about what Simon's doing, but Simon is not the focus of the case study. Mary is. Is her leadership style helping the company out? What can she do? How can she approach the situation here? I wrote in my case study, I feel that Mary needs to take the time to kind of do a review of her company, maybe talk to some other employees. She noticed that the ones in the meeting underneath Simon York felt pretty defensive or submissive and diminished. And so she needs to say, Are there other employees at the company that feel that way? Is this stemming from York himself, or is it a greater issue within the company that I need to address?
Yeah, kind of a
Because if there
culture.
are external pressures that maybe Simon York is feeling that say either, validate this behavior, or you must get rejection no matter what, or however, to cause that, then she needs to find that original issue and correct it. It could be Simon himself, but it might be something above. This might be one of the processes they have, or it might be one of the bosses above Simon that's pressuring him, if there is any between him and her. If it is directly herself, and then he is her direct employee, then she needs to see if maybe review some of her actions and processes to see if did he not receive those, since he's taken this behavior and assumes it's okay, or if he did receive those, where's the disconnect, so that this doesn't happen in futures with other employees as well.
Yeah. Well, I even talked in the case study. I even talked about how she went in, and she kind of lost her temper when she came in and she was talking to the director above her. He was like, "Who does he think he is?"
Where is this in the case study? I didn't find her talking to anyone.
It's towards the first of the story. And she says she goes into the director and she's like, "Yeah, who does he think he is? He just got this promotional position, and he goes out on the floor and he does all this." And
so Shelbourne came
yeah,
to Mary with that stuff. Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm on the right page now.
yeah. And I think I got confused on who was saying, which one of those. But he kind of came in and he kind of lost his temper and he was yelling. I mean, there was probably more of a positive way that he could have approached her too.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I also said. He's like, he instantly went in there and was kind of yelling at Mary about, keep doing this, and he could have just said, "Hey, I've noticed this."
Right, there's an issue here I need you to address. Yeah, he definitely didn't deal with it in a proper manner.
Yeah, he kind of came in yelling and kind of blowing off steam. And I think to a point, I think when a manager has somebody that does that, they at the same time they kind of they get a little defensive because they're kind of over both areas.
Yeah, so I've had a couple employees within the same company, and employers, I'm sorry, someone directly above me. I worked for the Boy Scouts, ran one of their camps, and I was the camp director, so I was the utmost authority on site, but I had to go to council once a week and talk to my boss. And one of the bosses I had one year, she was so wishy-washy in the way that she addressed things. I always felt that like other directors kind of just did what they wanted, yelled at her like that, or just, and she just like let it go wash over her. She didn't seem to take a lot of initiative in the camps that were under her. And it came to a point that she was potentially correcting me for stuff I was never trained because she never took the time to train me. Or if I had an issue and I brought it to her attention, she had no idea what to do with it, and I ended up resolving it myself. And so there came a point that I stopped talking to her. I just ran my camp and I ran it well. And if I needed to talk to council, I actually went to another employee who shouldn't have been over me, but he was also over camps. Because through him I could actually get results with what needed to happen, or feedback as to how I'm doing. And I'm afraid that Mary here is doing similar. I feel that she's kind of taking a similar result of, hold on, step back, let things happen, and it seems to be working fine. But she doesn't actually see all the issues that are happening because she doesn't seem to take the initiative. And, the flip side is I also had the other guy could be a little bit overbearing to his employees as well if he wasn't careful. You need a right balance in between those two. I think Mary Griffin so far is too far one way. Obviously, the way Shelbourne's dealing with it is completely wrong as well. There needs to be middle ground of firmness, but direction. How to move forward, and I think that they're missing that.
Yeah. Now, I talked a little bit about like the example of a leader or a management person really is Christ. And I talked about that a little bit, how, you know, he was never scared to correct people, you know, and what they were, you know, doing. Like when he went into and he was, you know, pushing the tables over in the temple and because of the money changers, but at the same time, he was always loving and serving others. And I think that's the way a good leader, a good manager should be. I think they're there to help make, you know, their workers or the people that they have stewardship over. They're there to make them better employees, essentially. You know,
Yeah.
and
Another one of my bosses, which I took to be a mentor because he's a fantastic employer. This is back when I was like 15, 16. I worked with him for many years. There was one time, this was actually when I was about 29, I was working directly under him. And he said he had brought in one of my employees that was under me to correct him because he was doing something wrong.
Hey, don't do that, Danny.
And it was really interesting because I brought the employee into the meeting and my boss kind of fumed, enraged. And then as soon as my employee left, he started laughing. I was like, what just happened? And he said, look, as employers, you can't actually get emotional about things. You know, you need to be very impartial, but you realize that emotions and leadership styles, these are all tools that you can use as needed. I've talked to this employer or employee many times before, and other styles have not gotten through to him. But he's going to think that he actually needed correction in a very forceful manner to make that correction because any others wasn't working. So he thinks I'm really mad at him. I'm not actually mad at him, but I want him to think so that he corrects his behavior. And then after he corrects that behavior, I'll reward him with, good emotions that he's looking for because he was just acting out for attention.
I gotta take this. Hello? Hello? Yes, I will. Evan, you gotta go home. I had to send a kid home.
That's okay. So I think we're supposed to talk about the feedback and coaching workshop. And I really liked what it said about the feedback. Be direct about that person, but you're not describing him. You're describing the impact of what they did. And I realized after reading through this, I have seen this done to me before. Didn't know the steps that they were following. I don't know if they even knew the steps they were following, but they, were very specific in the feedback to me and why it worked and all of that. And so it's something I really wanted to do into my own feedback skills.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the time when people are corrected, in their workplace, I think they don't see really their fault in the whole sense of what they've done.
Mm-hmm.
With like maybe if they irritated a customer, they may just, not like the customer they're dealing with, and he's a jerk, so I'm not going to treat him very fairly. But they don't see the fact that customer may go and tell 10 other people about their bad experience they had, or and drive it away, and they may not understand that, or they may and if they yelled at somebody, or if they that may spread onto other employees, in a sense that we were talking about earlier, how about people see behavior and if it's not corrected, they see that as being acceptable.
Right.
Yeah.
The same employer I had, he was really good, Todd McDonald. One of the other things that he taught me and spoke to me about was in constructive feedback. And I think it's similar to what we have here. He said, you should approach someone saying, I have a problem, and I want your help to help me resolve this problem. And this problem might be something that employee has done, but I'm not saying you're my problem. I'm saying we have a problem because of this. What can we do to fix it, right? And the same thing is for, like, let's say I have an employee that, I don't know, made me upset for some reason. I can be like, this is wrong and blah, 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 and start doing that, but it doesn't work. But when I say, look, I have a problem. When you do this, it makes me feel like this. Or when you do this, it makes this happen. Can you help me resolve this problem? They realize that it's not them I'm nagging on or not nagging on it, reproving, but it's the behavior. And this constructive feedback in this account does very similar with that, where they're saying, where's the examples real quick? Don't say this. You don't do a very good job of listening to me. You say, at our meetings with the marketing reps, you provided them with deadlines that were wrong, and clients differ. Since I told you about our actual deadlines and clients this morning, it makes me feel as if you don't listen to me. So I was like, wow, apparently this is exactly the same as what I've been taught before. And it works well. Yes, Maggie.
What are you doing, bud? Why do you have those gloves?
Okay. Do you have anything to add?
No, I just think that, I talked a little bit about it before about, managers should kind of bring out the best in their employees. And a lot of it, it's motivation. A lot of it is, I don't think it's as much correction as it is motivation. I know I work in like a commission, flat rate. I'm an automotive technician. I get paid for what I do.
Okay.
And I had a manager who, he used to yell, "Oh, you guys aren't doing enough. You guys aren't doing this. You guys aren't doing that." And I don't think anybody ever improved. But then we had a guy who came, and he was just, really good. He come in, he asked, "What do you need to do your job better?" And he talked about it. It's like, what are your goals? What do you think that you can do, in a day? And he's like, well, somebody answered, I think I can do, 10 hours of work in a day. And he's like, well, I think that you could do, 12, and this is what I think we can do better. It was a really positive experience. It wasn't like, and I think, and a lot of people who he was over, a lot of those people, their productivity went way up, and it was because of that. I just think it was a more positive way to go after it, and I think, that manager did a really good job of, motivating the employees to be better, to improve themselves. And it was more of like the employee themselves looking inside of what they had, where I looked and was like, yeah, I can do better, and I'm going to do better. And it wasn't like, I'm not doing what I got to do to not be in trouble. It's like, oh,
right.
Pick it up a little bit, I can make more money.
Right.
I think that's really the way that, a manager should be.
Definitely. They the leadership styles we talked about, they need to be able to use many of those. And I think you're talking about the affiliative approach right there, right? Where, look, this is where we're at. This is where we could be with, your help with, what I see about you. And that really does bring results. And you see it in people's lives.
Yeah. I think, people believe in themselves to a point, but I think when people above them see something that they make them out, or even just motivation, they give them that motivation. I think that, it pushes people in a positive way.
Right. Well, I think that we have an opportunity here to kind of practice this if you want, because we have a couple people in our group that didn't show up. And so potentially we can give them some feedback and talk about, maybe showing up to the group. Do you feel comfortable doing that?
Just doing some emails and stuff through the, yeah, I mean, we can do that.
Okay.
I know that earlier in the week, I put a message in the inbox about, like,
right.
Hey, let's do a Zoom meeting or what's going on,
So I'm thinking we each could do one, because we want to personalize it. It's not just going to be something we're going to generalize out to the two people. But I'll talk to Lisa, who's next week's group leader.
Okay.
Send her a personal message and follow along with the
Can I
constructive feedback within that coaching workshop.
Mhm.
And then you can do that for Chris. Was it Chris that we're missing?
I think so.
Or Daniel.
I'll message them about kind of the things that, maybe the things that they missed. We recorded this Zoom meeting. They could actually go in and actually watch it, I think.
It is being recorded. I will send it to them.
So they could watch they could watch the meeting after hours if they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a bummer that they weren't here.
Yeah. But I think it gives us a practice. They'll be watching this too if they watch the recording, but they'll know it's not like we're not trying to get upset with them. This is a good way to practice that feedback. And so yeah, we'll use the PowerPoints and try and use it in a way that will show them that we're not upset. The meetings will be better as we do this throughout.
Yeah, and it'll be great if everybody in the group gets involved and they all have something to say. I think it will really help everybody in the group.
Mm-hmm.
You get a different outlook on everything, a different point of view on everything.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
That's maybe we'll just message throughout the week and just remind people, hey, we have a meeting at this time.
And I do need to, own up that I misunderstood the time because of the time difference. I added an extra hour and tried to start at 6 o'clock instead of 7. So that will be addressed. But otherwise, yeah, I think we're good with this week's meeting. We'll be meeting again next week at 7 o'clock. Lisa is the group leader, according to the sign-up sheet.
So 7 o'clock
Mountain Standard Time.
Mountain Standard, which I think is what I'm on, 7 o'clock.
So
Mountain Standard.
I believe. I'm double checking the group signups. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not 7 o'clock Mountain Standard. I did it again. 8 o'clock Mountain Standard.
And 7 o'clock. Yeah.
Yeah, 7 o'clock my time. But yeah, I tried to get on at like 6 because I was thinking 7 o'clock because I'd already moved it back an hour in my head and then completely messed it up. But that's all right. We'll get it. 8 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. Lisa's the group leader, and we will meet then. Anything else before we close the meeting?
No, I think that's great. I think the amount of time we allotted, I think, we did a lot for just me and you, and it'd be a lot better if everybody actually joined. So.
Okay. Well, I'll stop this then. Thanks for coming, Ryan.
Right.
And you'll talk to Daniel, and I'll talk to Lisa.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right.